Welcome to Tunnel Talk, where we discuss everything indoor skydiving and tunnel flying. Today we're chatting about hearing protection. Do you wear it? Should you? How noisy is the tunnel? Stick around and we'll have a look. So how loud is the tunnel? We took some measurements right up against, but outside the tunnel, up against the glass, in the staging area and in the wind. And you should absolutely be using hearing protection. What does it mean though? What is an acceptable noise level? So the worldwide standard is pretty much based on 80 decibels. So once you go above 80 decibels, you should be wearing hearing protection. And in order to calculate the safe exposure level, the calculations are based on being able to be exposed for up to 8 hours. So a loud conversation is about 70 decibels. Very loud curbside traffic is about 80 decibels. A lawnmower is around about 90 decibels. So let's have a look. So the first thing we measured, and we used an Apple Watch, so certainly not a scientific high-end sound meter. I don't know how accurate the noise measuring is on the Apple Watch, but certainly gives us a good indication. So right up against the glass, within a few millimetres, we were getting around about 81 decibels. So come back a centimetre, the noise drops off very, very quickly, and you're well below the 80 decibel mark. In the staging area. So in the staging area, furthest away from the actual door entry into the tunnel, we were getting around about 92 decibels. Now keep in mind the Apple Watch is under a jumpsuit sleeve, under the cuff of a glove, so I'm guessing the level of noise we were measuring is probably going to be a decibel or two higher in reality, but this is what we were getting with the watch under a jumpsuit. In the wind, flying head down so we could get the noisiest possible wind, or the highest wind level for the most noise, we were getting around about 112 decibels. So how long can you be exposed to those noise levels without hearing protection? So if we have a look at this, this chart, you can see that at 112 decibels, you, without hearing protection, less than 1 minute before you start suffering hearing damage. If we have a look at the staging area, which was about 92 decibels, and that was furthest away from the tunnel door, without hearing protection, less than 2 hours before you start to get hearing damage. So let's have a look at what are the standards? How is hearing protection rated? There are 3 standards used around the world: the US standard, the European standard, and the Australian standard. So NRR is the US standard, the SNR is the European, and the SLC 80 is the Australian standard. So if we have a look at some labels, this is what you'll commonly see on a product. So in this case, this label is SNR 33 and SLC 80 of 22, or class 4. So when you're choosing your hearing protection, just get the highest number that you can. At this chart, this is the Australian standard, the SLC 80. And at the noise levels we were measuring doing head-down flying, between 105 and 110 decibels, they're saying class 5 hearing protection will protect you for up to 8 hours exposure. So certainly for the short periods of time that we're flying, so let's say an average pro flyer booking a 10-minute session, 15-minute session, class 4, class 5, you're well and truly protected. Obviously, if you're doing tunnel camps and getting noise exposure of many hours in a day, even then, class 4 or 5, you're well and truly protected. So the other factor we have to think about, the helmets we're using. So the helmets we're using don't just dampen the noise. but they also create noise. The air travelling around the helmet, vibrations. A prominent motorbike magazine did a study recently, and they measured the noise levels inside motorbike helmets, and I'd probably suggest motorbike helmets are better protected from noise or offer better noise dampening than a tunnel helmet would. But at 100 kilometres an hour, a motorbike helmet on average was 105 decibels inside the helmet. And at 150 kilometres an hour, the average inside the helmet was 110 decibels. So certainly, aside from what we did was just measure the sound on an Apple Watch outside the helmet, there's going to be some sort of noise associated with the wind and the helmet itself. The other thing to consider is the helmets we're using do double duty for outdoor skydiving, and so therefore over your ears, the padding inside the helmet that you might normally associate with noise dampening is not going to be over your ears. It's going to be hollowed out over your ears to allow for your audible alties, your ditters. So I might even suggest, if you're using a helmet for tunnel flying only, grab some noise dampening material, some extra padding, maybe put that in the ditter pockets to further dampen the noise. So let's have a look at the different types of hearing protection available and some of the noise ratings. So one thing to consider as well, I would suggest the vast majority of people use foam disposable earplugs. Some people do use reusable earplugs, custom molded earplugs, or even off-the-shelf reusable. Just be a little bit careful. If we have a look at some of the reusable hearing protection available commonly online, the foam disposable earplugs are actually rated at the top quite high. A lot of these common reusable earplugs, some of them are rated quite high, but there are some that are rated a lot lower. So class 3, class 2. So I would suggest, if you're choosing reusable earplugs, have a look at, just double check what they're rated at to make sure you choose the earplugs with the highest rating available. So let's have a look at some of the disposable types, and also let's have a look at some of the custom molded reusable types. Let's have a look at some of the common types of hearing protection used by tunnel flyers. So obviously, let's have a look at probably the least common. And these would be custom molded, fitted for sound earplugs. So these are medical grade silicone. You'll visit a audio technician or a lab. They will take custom molds of your ears. They will 100% medical grade silicone. But once the audio technician gets your molds back, and I'll just see if I can get a close up. You may not be able to see, you can just see in the ends there, they will hollow out and fit audio drivers into the silicone earplugs. And obviously these are used by freestyle flyers so that they can listen to the music for their routine when they're doing freestyle competitions. And they'll plug the end of the earplugs into a wireless transmitter or wireless receiver so they can listen to their music. And I believe there are a few coaches actually using some form of the flyers will be listening to their coach in the tunnel. But certainly the most common use for these are by freestyle flyers when they're competing, so they can listen to their routines. So the most common type would be these disposable foam single-use earplugs. And they're not all the same, so these are two different types. They look very, very similar. However, they both have different ratings. So this pair here has the American rating of an NRR of 33. and this has an NRR of 32. So these are these ones here are a class 5, and these ones here are a class 4. So either class 4 or 5 is going to be fine, but I'd suggest pick the highest hearing protection that you can. The other thing you have to account for, these hearing protection ratings are a theoretical value in the lab. So this is a theoretical rating of the maximum protection that it might produce. If you don't fit them properly, everyone's ears are shaped differently, you may well get less hearing protection than is rated on the pack. So on the pack is only a theoretical rating. Next one here, this is a custom moulded but do-it-yourself. So it's a 2-pack putty. It's a vulcanized silicon putty. Once you mix these two halves together, you've then got a couple of minutes working time to get them into your ears. And this is a pair that I used to wear. So this is one of the early types of hearing protection that I gave a try. It is soft. So it is a soft vulcanized silicon. Not as smooth, a little bit harsher than the medical grade silicon. It's not as smooth. And obviously it's not translucent. So if you have a look at the medical grade silicon, which is this sort of earplug, you can see that they are translucent and they're a lot softer. We'll come back to those because there's a next step up. You can do the do-it-yourself at home. The next step up is these. So this is still a vulcanized silicon. It's still made from the 2-pack instant putty. But it's normally done by a hearing technician who will either visit the tunnel or you'll go and visit them. They will look at your ears. They will do a much better job of putting the 2-pack putty into your ears. And generally speaking, you can see my attempt here with the lighter colour. It's quite a lot larger and not quite as neat a job. The other difference is they will then coat the vulcanized silicon in a liquid silicon. So this has a shiny, softer coating on top of the vulcanized silicon, which gives it a much nicer finish, and it'll make it last longer. And then obviously the last step is the medical grade custom molded silicon. So you'll visit a hearing specialist. They will still use a 2-pack putty to make the mold, but then that mold is sent off to a lab. They will make it's medical grade silicon. They'll finish them off much nicer, and then they'll go back to the technician who you went to make your molds. And you can see it gives you a much, these are both my ears, but you can see that the medical grade complete custom mold, it's a lot smaller. And if I can get the camera to focus in, it's just a much neater job. Much smaller, much neater. All these custom mold ones, they do say they're rated up to a class 5. I guess the results are going to vary as to how well they're fitted, how well they're molded. And as with anything, even when I'm wearing mine, sometimes the seal makes and breaks, and you can hear increases and decreases in the noise level. So with any of these sort of hearing protection, the protection number is only theoretical, and you're probably going to get less than that. So I guess pick the highest value you can and give yourself the best chance of the maximum hearing protection. Thanks for joining us for our chat on hearing protection. Hopefully you learned something. Don't forget, if you are new visiting our channel, click the subscribe button so you get notified when we upload our videos, and we'll see you again next time.